Here's the reality. Every year, millions of people pass through Jamaica's airports. Visitors, returning residents, business travelers, you name it. But a surprising number of them still don't fully understand where Jamaica Customs role actually starts and where it stops. People aren't always sure what items are restricted, what's prohibited, or even what to expect when they arrive at the airport. And when that information gap exists, it creates frustration, confusion, and sometimes misinformation. So today, we're going to clear some of that up. We're breaking down what customs actually does, what travelers need to know, and how you can navigate the process smoothly on your next trip to Jamaica. And to help me do that, I'm joined by someone who sees this thing every day on the front line, Dameion Rose, supervisor at the Norman Manley International Airport, enforcing customs laws and helping to keep our borders and communities safe from illicit items. I'm Nikel Innerarity, and this is Real Talk with Jamaica Customs. All right, Mr. Rose, so let's start. What are some of the roles and responsibilities of Jamaica Customs at the airport?
First off, customs at the airport, we're responsible for monitoring all flights entering or leaving the island. Right? We ensure that they are within the laws of Jamaica, and that when the passengers are disembarking from the flight, they take the most direct route from the aircraft through immigration into the customs hall for further processing. We also ensure that all the bags that would have come on board the flight also gets to the customs location. Essentially, that's what we are doing in a shorter term.
Who are some of the other players in the airport that sometimes customs get confused with?
You know, persons actually think that everybody's customs, and we employ everybody in the airport, and that's well, I don't know where we end up there. But there are the airlines on the airport, the persons who actually operate the airline. Each airline has their own operator and their own agents who deal with anything related to the aircraft itself. Right? The passengers, booking, everything that is necessary. There's a ground handling team. Right, and I'm going to add that none of these persons I'm mentioning actually works for customs.
Right. So when I go through the airport and the guys who are at the carousel and they're helping me,
those will be the ground handling team.
So they don't work.
And no, they're not a part of customs in any form. They're actually hired by the airline to put your bags on board the plane and to take your bags off the flight.
Because it's important that we make that distinction now, because say when they go through the airport and they interact with, because I can tell you of a story that someone that I know had a bad encounter with one of those guys, and them called me and say, "Me I gotta bring down customs," because And when I did my own investigation, it was one of the handlers.
That is the norm. That is the norm at the airport, right? Automatically, if the passengers coming up, that gentleman is customs, and I need to talk to him.
Right.
But we have no say. It is really the airline who is responsible for those individuals and to ensure that they give the customer service that each person should get. Right? Apart from those, there are the securities on the airport. So each airline has a security team that is responsible for securing the craft, to ensure that anybody that comes within the space around the airplane is should be there, right? And nobody else who is not supposed to be there. And they're supposed to be monitoring what happens with your bags and all that. So that security team that they would have, that is their main responsibility for being there.
Why is customs usually blamed first for this? What do you think is the reason behind that?
We were having a conversation at work, and we came to the conclusion that everything that happens from Harborview Runabout to Port Royal is customs.
Customs.
It's customs fault enough, right? So there's no other way but customs. It's responsible for all of that. I think persons believe that because we're the government and automatically that everything that is there falls to us.
Right.
And we're the person that is responsible for all of what happens, but that's not the case. And in most cases, the bags are not really missing. It may be a situation that the agent or the airline did not put it on board, or any other mishap, maybe a connecting flight and they did not make the connecting flight. The bag was the flight was overweight. They had to remove a bag. Any number of reasons.
I don't want you to go too much now because we'll touch the delayed bag part.
No.
So we'll come back to that. But I want to go to something that was all over social media recently. And it's not a passenger really, it's a friend of a passenger who went online and said that his friend, who was a passenger, was coming through the airport and customs stole his cookies and cologne. That kind of blew up on social media. I remember I woke up the morning on TikTok and everybody was sending me that, say, oh, customs thief the man cookie and cologne. When I saw it, I was like, I don't think that's true. Shed some light on that for us.
The first thing I'm going to say before I even answer the question is to point out that customs, gone are the days when we just say something and there's nothing to back it. We're now in the age of technology. So right across the entire airport, there are cameras, right? And some of the cameras are even AI efficient also. So you realize that we're able to, if there's a complaint, it is better to come to us and not go on social media, right? For us to address the matter, because we can review by the camera and we can find if what you're saying is true or not. In regards to the cookie and the cologne situation, right? At the time, it wasn't a laughing matter. We weren't smiling, but no, it's something to look back and laugh about a lot. The person who made that complaint on social media didn't even travel. They weren't in the airport and they were nowhere near the airport at the time of what happened. The actual passenger who traveled used the nothing to declare line, which for a lot of persons who don't know, that's the line where you just come up with the small items or small bags, and customer will just ask you a few questions. If you found that everything is okay, then they allow you to go. And that's exactly what happened. Came up, a few questions asked, he answered the questions, and you're allowed to leave. So there's no examination at any point. And that passenger did not complain about losing any items. So I don't understand how we end up at that point.
But to keep things going, I want to go back to the issue of delayed bags. What should a passenger actually do though if they come up on a delayed bag? Because again, social media. There was an instance, I think about a couple months ago, where social media blew up. There's this girl who tagged customs and said, customs, have our bag and now let it go, and it got viral.
Yes.
Explain a little bit to me more about the delayed bag process. Who is to be contacted? What's customs' role in that process? Shed some light on that as well.
All right. So I'm going to shed light, but I'm going to start with the fact of the bag actually coming. When the passenger bag has not arrived, because it's not missing, it is somewhere, just probably not here. When the bag has not arrived, the responsibility of the passenger is to go to the agent.
So the agent, it's clear. So the agent is who you go to when your bag is delayed.
The moment you do realize that you don't have your bag, you're unable to find where your bag is, you find the agent.
The agent, not customs.
No, not customs. Customs did not carry the bag. No, we're not responsible for the bag.
Right.
So you find your agent. Whatever airline, you find that agent. And that's the person that you go to and you ask, hey, my bag didn't come. What happened to my bag? Again, that's not customs. Right? No, what happened is that when the bags actually, when they have identified what happened to the bags, they would have explained, they're going to give you a customs form, unaccompanied baggage. You kind of see, people just say delayed bag form, for the easier term, right? Or something white paper, right? And that is now the form that you give to customs to identify that, look, I'm missing a bag, or I'm missing two bags, or I didn't get all my bags. And customs sign and either give you back the form as the passenger to come back for your bag when it gets here, or they take it from you and they give it to the agent, who now keeps that form until the bag gets here. So the responsibility now is for the agent again, not customs, to know I'd call you, the passenger, or notify you, whether via email or whatever means they normally use. Because there are various ways how to do it, the app and so forth. And at that point, they tell you that your bag is currently here and you can come and pick it up. Some persons want to come before the bag gets here. And in that specific situation, that's what happened. Persons turned up without being called by the agent to say that, look, your bag is in Jamaica. So come and pick up the bag. Right? And that's where the confusion started, because persons were there waiting on bags that were not here because they did not come. And now, when I travel and a day or two and I don't know that I don't get my bag, and
frustration
I want my bag.
is real.
Yes, it's real. So it's going to cause a lot of problem, and so you try. So it's better to wait, but as persons,
them
we
want
don't
them
really
things.
want to wait. I want it now.
No, yeah.
But again, when the bag does get here, if the bag is here, in most cases, okay, the area where the bags are held is a dual custody, right? So while it is in customs care, because customs has a responsibility to detain, seize, right, and hold on to any item, right? But the items will not be examined without the passenger being present. Customs wait on the passenger's presence for the bags to be examined. Right? So it's not a case where customs can take the bag and say, hey, I have the bag, I can give it to you.
Right.
No, the agent is always a key part of this transaction. Because they're the responsible party and they're the ones that have to hand over your bags. So I think a lot of these, not knowing a lot of these small situations in between, cause a frustration and cause persons to go on social media and immediately a customs at the fault.
All right. So again, delayed bags, check your agent, not customs. Your airline agent, not customs.
Yes.
All right. So we want to move to the issue of prohibited and restricted items.
Let me start with the fact that I don't know if you're aware that the responsibility for those items fall to different government agencies. Customs just act as an agent.
Oh, okay.
And
enforce.
So we enforce the laws for other agencies also. So in regards to like meats, fruits, vegetable,
need a permit.
Yes, you do need permits, right? Persons have the pet that they really love a lot.
Oh yes.
Right, yes. Like we're dog lovers. Not saying anything wrong with the cat people, to the time I'm dog lovers, right? But
and before you go, that dog one, it's very serious. I would have heard of a case where a dog had to be sent back because they didn't have the permit, and the dog had to be sent back on another flight with the passenger. So it's real stuff happening on the ground.
Dog food also needs permits. So those items we're going to take away from you, right? Especially the food items.
Right.
Right. So I think
a lot of fruits, vegetables,
yeah.
And you tend to see a lot of those.
Yeah.
And you see some unusual ones too. I remember a lady coming in with ashes. I think you need permit for that.
Yes.
You need permit for that.
And a lot of these permits are not hard to get.
Yeah.
Because most, if not all, you can do online through the respective agencies.
Right. And then there's J-Swift or single window.
J-Swift now that integrates any other agency that is not a part of it, but agencies directly also has the online process where you can get your permit prior to coming to Jamaica. So you need to come here and having a concern about customs taking the items from you.
Okay. All right. So at the top, I would have mentioned prohibited and restricted. But what's the difference between the two? I've heard a lot of time, this item is restricted, this is prohibited.
All right. Well, so to keep it simple, prohibited items are items that are not allowed into the country under any circumstance, while restricted items are items that you can bring once you have met certain whatever requirements that the country require. So whether it's a permit needed or a letter to import these items, once you met that, then you're allowed.
All right, so give me an example of a prohibited item, like one where you can't bring in nothing.
Well, honey is one such item that you're not allowed to bring in under no circumstance.
Oh, that's a first for a lot of people. I doubt a lot of people know that. So you can't bring in honey, none at all.
We do see it a lot and persons complain about it, but it's not allowed.
So as of now, don't bring in honey. Customs are going to take it, may I tell you now. All right, so to avoid any of these things, what travelers can do before flying to ensure that they don't contravene on any customs law and get in any problem, what do you advise them to do before traveling?
I think they need to just seek information, right? When in doubt, right? Seek it out, right? So we go and we find out the information. We have our customs has a social media page.
Yes.
right? Which is I think has a lot of information.
A lot of information.
I try to look at it a lot myself.
Yeah.
Right, every day for more information. 'Cause it's
Instagram,
always there. We have
Twitter,
Instagram or
TikTok,
LinkedIn or Facebook or
there.
you know, we seem to be on every platform.
At Jamaica Customs
and
Agency.
we have our website also, right? And what is very most important is that, and I tend to forget to say this, but I can't forget to say it right now, is that we have our customer service team.
Yeah.
Who is always available. All you just need to do is call,
Right.
and you ask the question, and they will give you the answer for it.
Right.
Even if the answer is not available at the moment, they will get the information for you and ensure that you get information in a timely manner.
Indeed, and we get those calls every day, all across the world. You know, persons will call. So we're in the space and always responding to people. You mentioned the online part though, and a lot of the somebody in public relations, you know, a lot of my responsibility involves trying to, you know, remedy and doing a lot of damage control. But from where you're seated, what is one, I would say probably lie that you've seen in the digital space about customs that, you know, you really look upon it and say, I shouldn't say that?
You know, I'm going to be fair to Jamaica and the world by saying that, remember, the perception is what is most important.
Right.
So while somebody may consider it to be a lie, it may be how I would have perceived the information at the time. Right? So yes, it may not be accurate, but at the same time, it's how it came about. And the one that I think is that stand out the most is that we had somebody who went on social media, and during the relief items after the hurricane, and customs was there on the boots on the ground, and we were going so above and beyond. Because I must say that customs did go above and beyond.
Oh yeah. Big up customs, trust me.
Yeah, we actually did go above and beyond. And then the person came on social media, and mind you, while they did not say customs directly, but then the mere fact, the perception that everything that goes wrong at the airport is customs. Just by starting by saying they stole my things and they did this and this happened, even though it was not factual, it had a very, I'm going to say, a damaging impact on all the efforts that were being done during that time. And I think it kind of made a lot of persons, including myself, feel like all the efforts that we were putting in were in vain, because we were, you know, it just came across wrong, because when social media got it, they did not leave it where it was. Automatically it becomes customs. And
it was all over. Yes. It was all over. Family overseas calling me, friends, what's happening. And it really, for a moment, undermined the entire process. International donors started to question whether or not
they made the right decision.
Right. So we have to.
What happened to my items?
Exactly.
If it's really reaching where it's supposed to reach, and you know, it had a
So we have to try our best to understand the process, and so we don't go into certain spaces and make, you know, false accusations, because
without finding out information. Because as I mentioned, it's a reputation of a state agency as customs has international implications. So, you know, seek the information, and just to be more careful in the digital space. As mentioned earlier, Mr. Rose, your boots on the ground at the airport. Just to get a little bit personal, professionally personal. Has your job ever put you in an uncomfortable situation? Of course, enforcing some of these laws can, as somebody who's been in this space and seen it myself, you must have had some uncomfortable encounters, especially with passengers trying to import knowingly, unknowingly restricted items. Nick, boy, I don't know if we start with that one, but yes, it has happened on many occasions. Persons see customs as just being cruel, but we do have hearts. And I think one of the situations that constantly affects a lot of us every day, even the staff, myself, even so much more, because sometimes I've actually had sleepless nights over some of the decisions that you had to make. But it is, and if we go back to the restricted items that are not allowed to come in, I've seen persons who would bring in the item and they say, like, you know, person's crying and they're saying, customs, if that alone me eat, you know. And just leave me, let me go with it. me have me diabetic, and is that I'm gonna eat no, those things kind of, put at your tug at your heart, and it's really, but we still have laws, and there's still a right way to do it,
Right.
and some of these things we still can't allow them to.
To get into our communities.
Yeah, so even though you carry it out, you cannot function, it is done so with a heavy heart. I can say that much.
I totally understand. As I would have seen it for myself. Lady, she cooked, I think she was coming from Guyana, and she cooked dinner for her son, who's attending university here in Jamaica. And she was distraught because apparently she was saying that he's not doing so well with the Jamaican food. And she was distraught when we had to take away her food. So I am with you on that. But as you mentioned, we have a bigger responsibility, and that is the safety of the communities and the people of Jamaica.
Definitely. That's first and foremost.
That we serve.
And I'm going to add that for those items on the Ministry of Agriculture website, there's an extensive list. And there's an explanation as to items and why you can't carry it. And it's all there on the Ministry of Agriculture website.
So check out the Ministry of Agriculture before you travel. All right, so before we wrap up, is there anything that you want to leave with our viewers before we wrap up?
Yes. I think a lot of Jamaicans are still not aware of our unaccompanied baggage allowance, right? Which every passenger that travels into Jamaica is allowed $1,000 to import at a later date.
And regardless of the age, what are there any age restrictions?
Well, over the old age of 18, because a minor is not allowed to get this allowance.
Okay.
So, and it lasts for 60 days, 2 months. Right. So once you have your $1,000, you're allowed to import items up to that amount without paying the charges. There is a CAF assigned to it, a fee depending on the item and if you can cover it. But it is your entitlement once you travel, but you're required to have your TRN in hand in order to utilize this allowance that is yours.
All right, so you hear that your unaccompanied baggage allowance.
Yes, the person has a UBA.
UBA, ensure that you utilize it the next time you travel to Jamaica. And there you have it. It was indeed a real conversation about a lot of customs matters. Thank you, Mr. Rose, for that. This conversation wasn't about defending customs. It was about understanding customs, facts over feelings, education over accusation, and partnership, not conflict. In this episode, cleared up even one misconception, then it did its job. Thank you for tuning in. Real Talk with Jamaica Customs.